How's it going, YouTube? Gage from Outdoor Instincts Live here on the Pete McHugh Show with Peter McHugh.
Hey everybody, what's up?
This is part 4 of our Nano Reef special, and today we're going to be talking about weekly maintenance of your Nano system. It's important to know as soon as you start setting up a tank from day one, you need to think about maintenance. So you need to think about where you're going to put your tank, direct sunlight if it is or isn't in it. So today we're going to go over basically what it is you need to do weekly for your system.
Now, some people are under the myth that, like, if I start a tank well enough and it cycles well enough, everything's good, I'm not going to have to do anything. It's a lie. You got to make sure your salinity is a decent level, especially in saltwater tanks. You got to clean your glass. You got to make sure that everything is, there's just so much there. You got to make sure everything's clean, your salinity is good. You got to make sure your water changes are regular enough to where your salt water is going to be at a decent level. This is especially crucial because if it's not at a decent point, stuff could potentially die. It's just not good.
Absolutely. Now, when we're talking, first off, let's start off with water changes, because that's a big portion of keeping a saltwater tank. How often would you say that it's necessary to change the water in your tank?
I would say at least once a week. Now, there are different ways to do it. You can do small ones, you can do big ones. Nothing has been proven to be better than the other. Some people do big ones weekly, some people do small ones more frequently, but that's like 2 or 3 times a week if you're doing smaller ones. I would recommend bigger ones. I think it would be, what would you say to that, Gage?
You know, like you just said, once again, everybody has their own opinion upon that. I've had people say that they like to do several small changes throughout the week as opposed to one big one. Personally, the way I look at it is, if I take 1 gallon out, now this isn't going to be specifically for a Nano, but from my experience on my tank, if I take 1 gallon out, you know, or 2 gallons out 5 days a week, I might as well just take 10 gallons out 1 day a week. It's easier for me, and I accomplish the same thing. So I leave that to you. Figure out what's easiest for you. But as long as you are doing a weekly water change and you are keeping your salinity appropriate, then you shouldn't have a problem. Depending on the tank size that you have, you're going to have to take more or less. But as a general rule of thumb, no matter what size tank you have, you're going to want to do a 10 to 15% water change weekly.
Yeah, and here's what I would say. Next thing, make sure your filters are clean. Make sure your protein skimmers don't overflow and you get muck. They do their job if they work well, but you want to make sure your water stays clean. You want to make sure your protein skimmer is picking up what it needs to pick up. You're going to want to check on your poly pads. You're going to want to check on your filters. There's a lot of things to keep an eye on, but it's so important to keep this ecosystem in balance.
Absolutely. So weekly water changes. Now make sure some people out there, like, just get into this hobby. Sometimes they make a mistake, which is fine because we all do it. We still do it every once in a while. It's important to know if you are doing a water change, you need to check your salinity, which we will have a special episode on how to check salinity.
When we say special, we mean special.
Very special. So make sure you watch that. A lot of people think that, well, this is a saltwater tank, so, well, I've had some evaporation in my tank, or I need to do a water change. I need to add more salt water to my tank. That's not necessarily always true. You're going to want to check that salinity. If your salt's high, you're going to need to add fresh water. Later on in this series, we will get into water chemistry, and we'll discuss that further in detail. Let's talk about the sand bed here. Once we've established our sand bed, things die, things reproduce. Can you kind of explain to them how do you suggest cleaning the sand bed?
Well, primarily what you're going to want to do, and this is harder for bigger tanks, but we're talking about nano tanks here. You're going to want to move your fish, your living critters. You're going to want to get them out of the tank, get them in a safe place where they're going to be out of the way, and you're going to want to deep clean your sand bed. Now you're going to want to sift stuff around. You want to make sure you do it safely, because when you did it what was it, 2 or 3 weeks ago, you want to make sure you have gloves on. Yeah. You want to make sure you keep your skin protected, because there are living organisms within the live rock that have potential of stinging you and hurting you and making a bad day for you. So you want to make sure you clean safely. You want to be wise about anything you're doing in this hobby. Do it safely. Don't be stupid. And I know this is a weird thing. You don't want to get stung.
No.
You want to sift in one direction. You are going to just be aware of the fact that you are going to kill stuff, like he said. That's just part of the process. The ecosystem will cycle. It will go back to normal. It's going to be cloudy for like a couple hours. At least it was for me when we did it a couple weeks ago. We had to wait for the sand to clear. It's important for this sort of thing to happen. I had red algae, I had detritus, I had all kinds of gucky stuff in the bottom of my sand bed. And if you want a presentable aquarium, we cannot stress this enough. Just keep an eye on what you're taking care of. It's so important to inspect things and watch over what your tank is doing. You can't see everything, but it's so crucial to, if you really care about your tank, just keep an eye on everything.
Absolutely. Like, as we said in the beginning here, when you do set this up, you have to keep, maintenance in mind. You don't want to put this tank in a spot of your home that you can't see all sides of it.
You want to keep your equipment accessible too for your maintenance.
Absolutely, so you can clean your equipment, change out your filters, things of that nature. Like we said, there is things in here that can sting and harm you, so it is appropriate and it is necessary to use sometimes some type of gloves. In a nano tank, like you said, I do suggest taking, if you're able to take your fish out of there, it makes the whole process easier. In larger tanks, you don't have that luxury, so you're just going to have to get in there and do the best you can. A lot of people think when they go out, they're misled by, well, if I buy a cleanup crew, which consists of your snails, your cucumbers, your hermit crabs, things of that nature, starfish, that this cleanup crew will take care of all the stuff in my tank for me and I won't have to do anything. That's not very true. Basically, what you're going to get yourself into is a problem because these critters can only do so much. Yes, they do an amazing job. Yes, they're good at it. But you're going to have to get in there. You're going to have to clean the glass. If you've got a detritus problem or a red algae or slime problem, you're going to have to take care of that. There are certain starfish out there that you can buy that do eat up detritus and things like that. But you know what? You're going to have to put in some elbow grease. You're going to have to do, your homework and research, and you're going to have to clean your tank weekly. Even if you have an absolutely flawless, amazing tank, you don't have to do anything to it. At least make sure you're doing water changes.
Mm-hmm. And there are systems out there that allow you to do automatic ones, or they're not.
They're absolutely.
They're not cheap.
They're not cheap, but if you're somebody that just doesn't have the time, or you just want to do it yourself, or not do it yourself, but a tank that just basically operates on its own. There are auto top-off systems where they detect a certain level of water that's missing from the tank from evaporation or whatnot, and it mixes your salt, your salinity, or it already has water that you had pre-mixed for it, and it just auto top-offs your tank. There's nothing wrong with those. Those are fantastic. However, tread cautiously. You're still going to want to check your salinity, because if something does happen to that system, or if it's adding too much salt water or just whatever, things are going to get out of whack. So constantly, if you do have an auto top-off system, at least make sure that you are checking your salinity at least 3 days a week.
Yes. You're going to have to, we're going to say this over and over again, if you want to be in this, you got to be conscientious and you got to be in it for the long haul. When you're doing this, no matter, you got to, this is not an easy hobby. It's a very rewarding hobby and it's a very fun hobby. But you're going to have to put in some work and you're going to have to put some love and passion in it. Otherwise, it's not going to be successful.
Absolutely. Now, this video isn't intended to make anybody an expert on cleaning. You are going to have to go out, and when we talk deep sand bed cleaning,
scrub brushes.
Yeah, how do I do this? What's the process? What forms? What doesn't form? It's going to look like crap for a little while once you do it. That's because things are dying and other things have to eat the things that are dying. So get on YouTube, get on a search engine and research how to deep sand bed clean. We're just trying to give you a list of things that you do need to do every day that you can go out and you can figure out how to do this. So basically, good water changes, keep your glass clean, do some deep sand bed cleaning. And one of the biggest things that will help you, especially for pests that can hitch a ride on live rock in your aquarium, inspection of your tank. Aptasia, which is a nuisance anemone, will grow. It's an opportunistic animal. It comes out when it feels it's right. So now in Aptasia, you can look online and find out what that looks like, but you'll know it as soon as you see it. The other thing that I want to stress is when it comes to nuisance critters, things of like flatworms, some types of coral-eating shrimps that can hitch a ride on live rocks, fireworms, things of that nature. To really inspect your aquarium, I suggest you do it at night after the lights have been off for a couple of hours, because that's when that sort of thing likes to come out at night. That's when they slither out of the live rock, and that's when they do their damage. Experts have said that to use a red light and shine a red light into your aquarium, because the red light doesn't disturb them, or at least disturb them as much. But after the lights have been on for a few hours, visually inspect your aquarium. If something doesn't look right to you, or if you see something that you're not sure of, get online and research it. Find out what you have to do to get rid of it.
Alright everybody, this has been an important episode, yet it is coming to an end. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time with some more awesome advice on nano tanks.
Take care, and God bless.